Trustee meeting. Give me a second while I read that correctly. The Elk Creek Fire Protection District Pension Board of Trustees regular meeting. And welcome everybody. So as a call to order, for those that are new, I see some new faces. We always start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And if I would, Director Newby, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. All right. Roll call of board members and trustees. There's no need. I see everyone here, including our two trustees. And I would ask that my fellow board members and trustees look at the agenda and please make any note of any additions or corrections that we might want to make as we move through the meeting. Cool, Kev? All right. And the agenda will be approved as presented. Please review and look at the 2023 meeting minutes from July and see if there's any additions, deletions, or corrections that are necessary there. Additions, deletions, corrections for the July Pension Board meeting of trustees.
Yes, I actually would like a point of clarification. It is my understanding that Lieutenant Devaney and Colt, I apologize, are you a lieutenant as well?
Yeah.
Lieutenant Thiel are trustees, not directors.
That's correct. They are
I
trustees.
questioned that.
Okay. I think it's important for clarification when we're especially given Director Devaney and Trustee Devaney, that I don't get confused.
That's why I put the first names.
Thanks. So if we could just going forward, make sure they are identified as trustees.
Any other additions or deletions or corrections? Last time, additions, deletions, corrections to the July 2023 Pension Board Trustee meeting. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve those meeting minutes with the corrections made.
Motion to approve the minutes with
Director
corrections made.
Second motion.
Director Woods, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And everyone voted in affirmative, so there's no need to call for abstentions or against. All right, that motion carries. Our next order of business is the the next order of business is old business, and that is the Pension Board Bylaws Update Subcommittee Report. And Director Newby, you had sent some information out. Would you like to start the presentation?
Yeah, just to get everybody caught up at our last meeting, and even at our meeting prior to that, there was some public discussion about bylaws clarification, the fact that they had not been updated for quite some time.
2018?
2012, I think, was the last adoption date, I think.
Yeah,
Colt.
2012.
So there was some discussion about needing to bring the bylaws up to date, and there was also some confusion about elections and so forth and so on. And at our July meeting, we put together a subcommittee, Lieutenant Thiel, Lieutenant Devaney, and myself, to just look into and take recommendations for bylaws updates.
That's correct.
So as the chairperson of that committee, I reached out to the two lieutenants.
Why are you chairperson?
And to say again.
Why are you the chairperson?
I think in terms of a director position, Director Newby is the chair, but you all represent that. He's just
Yeah.
speaking, but it it is a point that I provided him.
Okay,
So-
that's the first time I heard that.
I, as a point of privilege as the president, I asked Chuck to preside over this subcommittee. And I might have to double check the minutes, but I'm pretty sure I asked him to chair that position. Any clarification on that? No? Anybody else? For the
Yeah.
point of information right now, if you would just go ahead and finish your update.
Yeah, sure, of course, yeah. So, rather than meeting in person, just for everybody's benefit, the process we used was basically to just reach out. I solicited input from each of the lieutenants and then from other recipients, pension recipients. And then I collated and circulated those inputs that I received to the two lieutenants. And also to our legal counsel, I solicited his input as well. So then I produced basically this document that I circulated to all the trustees for the review and any discussion tonight that we want to have. I did not circulate, I did circulate the attorney-client privileged communication from Mr. Camille also to the trustees. So everybody has all of the information that we gathered. And fundamentally, I think most of the inputs that we received were on the answering some of the communication needs of being in more frequent communication with pension recipients and those who would benefit from the pension when they have proper years put in and so forth and would qualify. So that was quite a few comments there, and so I captured those comments. Also, the conduct of the updates in terms of the basically the rules of the road for conduct of meetings, notice of meetings, just sort of all standard stuff. People felt that there was a lack of clarity there, so we can do better in that area. Also, clarity, we need clarification on the language for specifying when elections take place, responsibilities of trustees, and so forth. And then Mr. Camille had a number of very technical and legal compliance issues that would bring the 2012 bylaws, into 2023. So I think we welcomed all of those. So any questions on any of that?
Appreciate your effort. I don't have any questions. I think that you guys are doing a great job. I appreciate our counsel, Mr. Mill, in putting that forward.
Yeah.
I unfortunately have not had a chance to dissect it, and I would like to have that opportunity. And I believe, I don't know about my fellow board members, but I know we just recently received it. I think there's an opportunity for us to take that as a basis and to build on it. I'm willing to entertain any other discussions on behalf of that, but I can't tell you how much I appreciate that, and I know there was discussion that was brought out of not only the floor, but in terms of what the trustees were looking for, and I appreciate you putting that out.
Yeah.
Was there anything else you'd like to add on that?
Just to give the lieutenants a chance to speak
So
up.
I kind of took those recommendations from everybody that he'd sent out, and I started typing out an actual Word document for the bylaws that we can have versus the PDF scheme that we all
Yeah.
received. So hopefully, we can get all that put together from there, and then we'll have an actual document that we can go and edit in the future if we need to. So
I'm hoping that we might have that available at the beginning of 2024. We might have that presented by the trustees and Director Newby to be after we make any additions to that, that might be able to be presented. But of course, we'll rely on any other changes that might be made, and then we can move forward from there.
Yeah, I would like to see a red line. I would like to see the red line document so that we know what it was and when it's been changed to, just so everybody is.
Yeah, I'll make sure
It's
those
clear.
get.
Okay. John, did you want to mention anything about that in the process?
No, overall, it was, my comments were kind of just like the legal updates that have taken place and kind of some clarifying points there. One of the pieces I think that was important was, and actually interestingly enough, a few of my kind of legal comments coincided with some of the feedback from the volunteer side. So things like notice, it was just kind of outdated. It was still using the old, like posting in 3 places, and as opposed to the modern approach of being able to post on the website. So kind of clarifying things like that to just, modernize the approach and make it easier and more consistent with, what the district board does as well.
Perfect.
As a note on that, Mr. Camille, can you, on item 7 in your letter, it refers to that Article 21 amendment and timing and posting. I'm seeing in here that it says at least 10 days prior to requirement. Is that subject to the same modifications that the state made for special districts? Can we shorten that
Yeah, so
to the more timely 24-hour notice?
So that was one that
Website.
I just commented on to highlight more as kind of a decision point, if that amendment process,
Mhm.
it requires, and the way I read it, 10 days before the first meeting to kind of be presented. And then at the next meeting is when you can adopt them. So you can, it's a fairly, lengthy process then if you're having quarterly meetings. So I just highlighted that both from the 10-day
Okay.
standpoint and just kind of the meeting process in and of itself. If you all wanted to revisit that as far as just being able to more efficiently amend the document in the future, that part right there could be subject to change based, it's more of a policy determination. And is ultimately, as long as you comply with the statutory notice requirements, which now are just the open meeting law 24 hours in advance on the agenda, that would be the one you'd have to certainly comply with. But I think that again was kind of I think even the amendments for the meeting that you would adopt them, it requires posting in multiple places in the district, things like that. So really kind of, again, a question of modernizing and making sure there's clear communication, just people know the expectation, but also potentially allowing for more efficient, changes in the future.
Absolutely. So as it stands now, if I'm understanding.
Recording in progress.
If I'm understanding you correctly, as it stands now, to make any modifications or changes to our bylaws, we have to have an initial meeting, which isn't this, because we didn't get it 10 days prior. We have to have all of this, the red line document that you guys want approved 10 days prior to our meeting, and then it can't be approved until the next meeting.
Yes.
Okay, so can we have a special pension board meeting in December with the red line document being provided 10 days prior so that we can officially vote on it
In January.
in January?
Yeah, I think, as I recall, it doesn't specify regular meeting, it just says 10 days prior to a meeting and then the next meeting.
And that's how I interpret it
Yeah.
on the other side, but on
So-
the
Yeah,
district side.
so I think that that would be sufficient for a special meeting. Again, it'd be just complying with that notice
Mhm.
component and walking through that process.
So I would ask that the subcommittee decide if that's what you want to do, because I don't think that you guys or us or anybody wants to take this any further than we have to and wants to get the bylaws aligned for the 2024 calendar year, correct?
That would be,
That would be my position, at least.
Yours as well, gentlemen?
Yeah, I think I can work on that document and get it out,
Okay, so
definitely before.
given that we're all, do you think that you can get that done?
Yeah,
by January.
Well,
I
by
mean, by
December.
yeah, I should be able to get it done by hopefully the end of this month even.
Okay, so with that in mind, the December meeting is slated for the 14th. Could we,
Add that as an
We don't have a pension
well, we would have to
It'd be
have,
Hopefully a
have
special meeting.
we would have to schedule a special meeting of the pension board, and that document would have to be posted in its required locations, which I am assuming is here, probably station 4 and station 2.
I think it's clarified in the bylaws in the separate,
Yeah,
in the meeting notice provision where the 3 places are.
yeah,
But that one is actually, that's for the next meeting. So the first meeting is just 10 days in advance to the pension board, because that's kind of just the notice to you all, and then the discussion at the first meeting, and then the posting is prior to the second meeting.
okay, so,
To approve the changes.
Yeah.
so we would want a meeting, a special meeting of the pension board on December 14th. Is that amenable?
Yes.
Yeah, we could put it in front of this
Yeah,
board
just
meeting.
like,
Yeah, like we're doing
but it
now.
would be a special meeting, so we would have to post notice on it. And then we would need that document by the 4th, correct, John?
Sounds great.
Okay. And then again, it would have to be posted prior to our January meeting on the 11th,
Correct.
correct, John?
Yes.
How far in advance on the
I believe
January
that's also
11th?
10 days.
So that would have to be posted by the 1st.
Happy New Year.
In the 3 required locations, which I'm pretty sure, I know here is one, station 4 is one, and I'm pretty sure it's station 2. Is that, any objections?
I think it's a sound, we've been working, you guys have been working on this diligently. I think once we have an opportunity to make some final additions, corrections, to make sure that they meet all pension board, FPPA, and legal constraints, we can have that, hopefully have that ready. That gives us over a month.
Yeah.
Is that minimal? Okay,
You guys have any concerns?
that's
Or-
fine. Jake, can you ensure through Barbara that a special meeting notice is posted for the pension board for the December meeting? And if you could make a calendar note that we will need somebody to post that in the actual physical locations, which is different from our normal
Yeah.
process.
Awesome, all right. Any other discussion about the pension board bylaws update? Subcommittee gentlemen, thank you guys so much. I appreciate that, and I'm excited that we're moving forward with that. The next item of business is new business, and I should have mentioned this before, but I believe we have this out of order. I would, if it's amenable to my fellow board members, I would like to ask Ms. Pam Feely to speak before we have our second quarter 2023 allocation report. I believe that the information that she will be able to provide would add context to what we're going to see as we go through the allocation report. Is there any issue with us switching that?
I think I was actually gonna ask that.
All right.
I wanna hear what she says first.
Yeah, I would like to introduce Ms. Pam Feely. Pam Feely is an expert in her field, a resident expert. A little bit about Ms. Feely: she's a CPA, she has an MBA, she's the owner of Feely Consulting. She served on West Metro's 2026 Blue Ribbon Task Force, exploring whether West Metro should ask voters to pass a bond and a mill levy increase. She was appointed in June of 2009 to fill a vacancy and stayed in that position for 11 years, 8 of which were president. She was appointed by Governor Hickenlooper to serve on the PPA or FPPA board and has served 8 years. And she has authored a book. This woman is the real deal, and I'm very excited. I have been teasing this board about her presence, and it's so nice to have you here, Ms. Feely. Would you like to add anything to your introduction?
Well, a little bit. I have 3 great uncles that served on Denver Fire back in the 1920s through the 1940s. Unfortunately, one did die in the line of duty. So I finally figured out that my passion for fire service comes from that legacy. So, and I currently serve on the Colorado Fire Commission representing special districts on the eastern slope. So that's been very eye-opening and took me out of the world of special districts. And it's a bigger world.
Well, Ms. Feely, we greatly appreciate you being here. The continuation and longevity of our volunteer pension is important to every board member that sits up here. We've discussed it. And your information will add great clarity into our evaluation in the future. Thank you.
Okay, so I appreciate the opportunity to educate and bring clarity to you. So we can go ahead, we can move the PowerPoint forward. So we're going to talk about the actuarial report and its definition and what it covers. We're going to talk about people. We're going to talk about time, how long the plan is going to be in existence. While I can't give you a definitive date when it will close, it's decades from now, and what the funding sources are. So we can move on to the next one. So an actuarial report is done by professionals who study longevity, mortality tables. They use demographic information of the people in your specific plan. They look at what's gone on. In an example right now, our life expectancy in the US has been cut by 2 years, in part because of COVID and also the opioid crisis. So that means people aren't living as long. They look at the investment returns that the plan has gathered from the past and what they project it to be. And then it's time, how long do you have to have, and what are the sources of funding? And in your case, the sources of funding come from your district, they come from the state, and they come from investment returns. So now, we can talk about the next one. So the defined benefit pension plan is a promise to provide a benefit in the future to the covered individual. So the actuarial predicts a benefit and estimates how much money you'll need to provide that benefit. And they figure out what the normal cost is. And in a volunteer world, you have a set of benefit at $220 a month for a person who's been here for 20 years, or 10 years. $440 a month for a person who's been here for 20 years. So they figure that out. Then they look at, is the plan unfunded? Does it have, is the district going to be liable for more money in the future? And they figure out what the district needs to make in terms of its contribution on an annual basis. It's not recommended to take holidays. Plans who take holidays end up in trouble. So then who are you going to pay? You're going to pay retirees, and you're going to pay people who have a terminated vested benefit but are not yet drawing it. And so those would be somebody who volunteered for 10 years and is 40 years old and isn't 50 yet and can't receive the benefit. So that's what that category is. You still owe them that money, you still owe them that benefit. They're just kind of in a limbo stage because they don't qualify based on age.
Can I ask a question right now?
Sure.
So if somebody has been here for 10 years, but they're only 40, and they can start drawing when they're 50, do they get a different amount because of that 10-year gap between when they serve to when they can draw?
No,
Okay.
they calculate what the benefit would, how much money would have to be set aside, and then add the earnings to it so that at age 50 they could get the 220.
Okay.
So that's part of that calculation. So we can go to the next slide.
So Pam, I have
Sure.
a question for you. So our plan, or these plans, are a defined benefit plan, is that correct?
That is correct.
So, you have to have, a volunteer has to have a minimum time in service to qualify, and then there's a second age qualification
Yes.
as well, right?
Yes.
In that age qualification, so it's 10 years and age 50
For a half a benefit.
to, so that is half the benefit. And
Full
that's
benefit is earned at 20 years.
Okay, so the 10-year benefit is 220, and that does not change, that's
That's the,
the
right
meaning
now,
of
that
a
is the
defined
benefit.
benefit, right?
That is the benefit for as long as the plan exists, unless the board chooses to increase the benefit. But we can talk about that a little later.
Yes, please. but just so I understand, so the fire district contributes dollars to, enough dollars on a quarterly or annual basis to allow that defined benefit payout to be paid for all of the qualifying population, is that how that works?
Yes, for their life expectancy.
So as more people, yeah, right, for the life, exactly, actuarially.
Right.
So as more people come into the plan, then the district puts in more money, sets aside more money into the plan. Go ahead.
That's, your plan is closed to new members. Your
Okay.
plan closed to new members in 2018.
And-
The volunteer plan has.
Yeah, okay, but what?
So
Okay.
I don't know what that decision was made or why that decision was made. That's before my time, but right now,
Gotcha.
new volunteers are not in this plan.
I see, okay.
So
Gotcha.
so it's actually kind of a little bit different. You're not going to, because you don't have new members coming in, that amount won't necessarily grow as to what you put in,
So you have
unless there's a
people,
deficit.
you have people aging out, I don't wanna say dying, but
Well, in
Aging
this
out.
world,
aging out.
dying is the right word.
Right.
And when they die, it's a benefit to the plan.
Okay, right.
Well, it's a positive.
Okay.
From a financial,
From a financial perspective, and it's no disrespect,
it
Matt.
is what it is.
It is what it is. It means that there's one less person that's getting a benefit, so the plan doesn't have to continue to cover that person anymore, or
So
that widow.
So the obligation for the district to input money would, in that case, decrease by some small amount presumably.
Right.
Okay. Just trying to understand.
No, and that's why I'm here,
Right,
is for you to understand.
okay, thank you.
Pam, one clarification, the state also contributes.
I did, yes, and the
You
state,
mentioned that
I did
earlier,
mention
but not just, it's
Right.
not just the district.
it is the state as well. There are state matching funds, and unfortunately, I don't know all the rules on that. I did not get that clarified today, but I will get that back to you. But you'll see that I put that number in my presentation later, so, okay.
Thank you.
So then we're to the. So now then, the purpose is to predict the benefits which you've set. The pension plan and their trustees have set what the benefit is, and what the requirements are. They set assumptions, and then the actuarially determined contribution is what you have to make. And you're gonna take that normal cost, unfunded. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So who is currently in your plan receiving a benefit? As of January 1st, 2023, there are people who are 80 and over. There are 10 members or retirees and 2 widows. So there's 12 people in that bracket. The 70 to 79, there's 21 members, 4 widows for a total of 25. The 60 to 69, there's 16 retirees, 1 widow, and then on the 50 to 59, there are 4, for a total of 58 people currently drawing a benefit every month. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So you have 3 members who have earned benefits who are not receiving it because they're not the quite right age, or maybe they decided to delay their retirement. But, so they're not at least 50 probably. And then there's 1 member who is not with you anymore, but is participating in another district's plan. So we can go to the next slide. And then this one, you have 4 active members. One is 30 to 39, one is 40 to 49. One has 5 years, with 0 to 4 years of service. One has 5 years of service, or up to 9. And then one that's 50 to 59 has more than 10 years worth of service. That member has a benefit coming, they're just not retired. 2 years ago, you had 16 people in that category. So you've lost 12. Which is a good thing for the plan.
Can you go back? My math isn't mathing.
Right. Oh, the total, it didn't total, it should have been 4. I'm sorry.
Okay, cool. I was
No,
just
not
checking.
We knew what you meant.
I was got too much math going on, all right. All right, good catch. So, as a way to get a handle on how long the plan's gonna be around, I use the age of 95 for the member, just because it's kind of something I can grasp my hand on. I can go look at a calendar and say how far that out is. So if the person is 80 years old and 23, and they live to be 95, they will pass away sometime in 2038, or their widow. 75, I used 75, I took those 10-year brackets and made them in the middle. So 2043, so that's 20 years from now. We have 2053, 63, 73, and 83. So this plan's gonna be around for a very long time. Okay. Move on. So I did a graph, so this shows you by year, when they'll be getting benefits. So way out there, 2061. So go on to the next one. Slide, the next slide. And this is by age. You can see. So I just took that table and made it into a graph. So then let's go on to the next one. So then, what's your responsibility as a trustee? By law, fiduciaries are to place the needs of the beneficiaries ahead of their own interests. So you're looking out to be sure that the plan is going to be there in 2075 to provide that benefit. That's what your job is. So,
Pam, question for you.
sure.
So, for the firefighter who is qualified in the plan and receive benefit, have started receiving benefits but passes away, does all of that benefit go to the widow at that
No.
point, or is that, okay,
The widow has a different benefit,
okay,
and that's coming up.
okay, good, thank you.
So you should have a written policy that if you're going to to notify FPPA of any changes, which I do believe you have in place. So when someone comes on and is ready to retire, FPPA is notified and they get the process going and they get the bank information and do whatever. Or the death of a member or spouse, then FPPA needs to know to stop that. They actually do have a process in place where they do check social security numbers on a fairly regular basis to be sure that something hasn't happened, that somebody didn't get missed. So, the next one. So if you're going to increase the benefit, it is in your interest to require an actuarial study. FPPA probably would require it, but it is also in your interest to be sure that you're going to be able to meet the new obligation for the length of the plan. And I understand several years ago you raised the benefit from $400 to $440, so that was a 10% increase, and you were required to get an actuarial. It can be done at the time, every 2 years, that FPPA does the actuarial, or you can go and have it done off-cycle. And FPPA has, Gabriel Rudder-Smith is the actuary FPPA uses. They have all your information. It's, it's the matter that they can probably handle.
Do you know the cost on it?
It's around $2,000, I believe Chip told me. Chip Wheel is the benefits manager that I work with at FPPA. So the current benefits, the retiree at 10 years gets $220, 20 years $440, and at 30 years $660. So his widow gets half. And so this is just a table of if you invest money over time at different interest rates, what you would get. So we can go to the next one. Again, this is just based on years, how long it's around, and where that money would go. And then the next one. So for FPPA, while I served on the board, one of the issues that we came up with is we have some old hire plans and some volunteer plans that are, people are getting to that point where the plans are getting close to being done and closing out. So we realized having those funds in a plan in a 7% interest rate or 7.25% interest rate was not being fiduciarily responsible to the plan members. So FPPA started doing 3 different investment pools. The long-term pool, it's designed for primarily open plans with a longer time horizon. And right now, FPPA's investment return rate is 7%. The next one is the glide path pool. That's where they're gonna take you from being a long-term plan to maybe you're gonna be getting done in about 15 years. So we're gonna glide path you into, getting out of some of the more investments that are a little more risky based on what goes on in the market in a day-to-day basis, and become more conservative and put some in more bonds and things like that, and make sure we have enough cash to meet your benefits. And then the third plan is the short-term pool, and that's where it's primarily had no tolerance for risk, and the smallest tolerance for risk, and you need cash. So FPPA has done that now with all of the plans that they manage. You're in the long-term plan, because we're gonna be out here till 2070, 2080. I can't guess how long.
So, for example, a glide path pool might be appropriate for a time horizon for how long? 30 years rather than 50 years?
No, it's closer
40
to
years?
10, it's closer to 15, 10.
Okay,
West Metro has, actually at West Metro, we had 2 old hire plans and 1 volunteer plan. They now have they now have 2 volunteer plans with the merger with Wheat Ridge. Our old hire plans, one of our old hire plans is in the short-term pool. They're probably less than 10 years out. My guess is they might be 5 years out, depending upon who's still left, because they lost a lot of people in the last 2 years.
gotcha. Thank you.
So then I think, the next one, yeah. So for you, I took what FPPA said, or Gabriel Rhodes-Smith said was your contribution. And these are all the factors that they took into account. So it's the projected current cost of all future benefits for everyone that's to receive a benefit for their lifetime. So they take the actuarial value of the assets and they subtract the accrued liability, and the result is known as the unfunded actuarial accrued liability. You don't have that. You're in the other direction. So that a funded ratio is computed. Generally, contributions are calculated to be completed over 20 years. So when you see an annual amount, that's what they figured it on. So then the next screen. So for you, as of 1/1/2023, your total actuarial accrued liability is $1,876,714. That's for retirees and beneficiaries. Those inactive members, those ones that are going to get a benefit but are not yet receiving it, their benefit's $102,618. And then the active member, they've projected to be $72,767, giving you a total liability of $2,052,099. And then they've looked at what you have in assets, and you have $2,969,832, giving you an unfunded actuarial liability of, does that say, $817,733. So you're 145% surplus.
Right.
And the reason that went up so much this year was, I talked about those 12 that you lost. That active number used to be higher, a lot higher. So it added quite a bit when you lost the 12 members.
So how did we lose those members?
I don't know the answer to that. They must have, maybe they went to another department, maybe they decided they didn't want to be a firefighter.
this district
With Elk
before,
Creek, they've been somewhere else.
Oh, just out of the,
They're not firefighters with Elk Creek.
okay, gotcha,
yeah, they left the district before they hit their 10-year mark with us.
gotcha, okay.
Right, big, yeah. And I'm seeing that across the state. Their volunteer firefighters are coming to get their training. And once they get some of their training in, they're going and they're applying with paid departments across the state. That's what we're seeing.
So they don't stay where they started.
They do not stay where they start. They also may be moving out of some of these areas and moving closer to metropolitan areas across the state. Grand Junction, Pueblo, Pooter. It's not just the Front Range. But I know that Elizabeth they've kind of gotten to the point where they realize that they're probably just a training department. Okay. So you're at 145. So then the next slide. So you don't have an unfunded actuarial liability, but they still do put the schedule in there anyway. So you're positive, no, it is 917,733, I must type that. So if you take that and divide it, it's 69,000 a year that you don't have to put in. But because you choose to, which is fine, which is great, you've got an annual contribution of at this point 15,000, and the state match is 11,240, and we want to keep the state match. So you always have to put something in to get the match. You don't put something in, you don't get the match, and then you can't go back and get it later. So it's assumed that you're going to be putting in about, combined between your district and the state, $26,240.
Now, are there caps on the state match?
Yes, there
I would
is.
assume there is. but-
There is. It's based on a benefit of $300 a month.
Okay.
All right, and then the last. So you have 6% of your participants are not vested as of 1/1/2023, 4 out of 66 people.
So based off of all of this, it would behoove us to run an actuarial.
If you choose to raise benefits, then you will have to run an actuary.
But because we just received our actuarial, we'll have to do an off-cycle if we're gonna do
Correct.
anything in the short term.
So do they run the actuarial based off of what we want to change the benefit to?
Yes, you're
Okay.
going to tell them, we want to increase the benefit by 5% or 10% or double it or whatever the number is.
Mhm. Okay.
Usually they'll do like 2 or 3.
They'll do 2 or
right?
3,
Yeah,
right?
you can give
Give
them
us a range
like,
of
yeah, 5, 10, 15%.
15%.
And then all of this will get reported in the actuarial. So here's your current, benefit funding.
Exactly.
And then, so then you can have like options A, B, and C basically out of the actuarial.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
awesome.
Here's the actuarial.
I've seen them all.
It's
I like-
21 pages long.
I like that actuarial better than one's.
Yeah.
I work for a different district. I like your actuarial better than mine.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so are there any questions?
Yeah, ma'am.
Yes?
All this data you provided came from the actual study?
I'm sorry?
All the data that's on, I can't
Yes,
really
it
see
comes
that.
from this actuarial
And
report.
where is that located?
You can get it from Barbara, I believe.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I believe we have it.
Yeah, I got it.
I've asked for financial statements for years and I've never got them.
Okay.
So I'd like to,
This is not a financial,
an actuary, it's financial.
it's an actuarial report. It is available from your district.
Okay, I'd like one.
Okay.
Or just be available to all the, I think it should be
Would there be
available to
any-
all the.
Would there be any issue with posting it on the website?
Yeah, electronic would be easier. I don't want to have to print.
That's how I received it, was electronically.
Yeah, that
And it's not,
If we could just post, there's no issue with posting it on the website?
No.
It seems
We'll
like
just do
it's
that.
public.
Get it up there.
There is
Yeah,
no
perfect.
name, there is
Done.
no individual name listed in this actuarial report.
Perfect,
So you are not giving away any information.
perfect. We'll just put it on the website then.
I think that,
Thank you.
yeah, that's fine.
Any other
So all that
questions for
data
Ms.
that we
Feely?
saw here that I didn't see here, obviously, because I
I'm
can't
sorry,
see-
what?
All the data that was on your screens that I can't actually see from there is in the actuary or?
Every bit of that number is in here.
Okay, all right. So I look at our, the only data I have that comes from the audits, the yearly audit for the fire district, and it audits the plan as well. It audits the,
The audit for your plan,
We have a
for
point of
this
order.
plan,
We have a point of order. Is this appropriate?
I think in light of it being an informational session, that there's, shouldn't be any issue if somebody
there's a
wants to
pension
ask
board
questions.
meeting, I get to talk to my pension board.
By all means.
So the only financial information I get is from the actual audits from the fire district audit, and it has a lot of these numbers. But one thing it says in the audit, every year, it says that the benefit provided is, retirement benefits for members, $440 a month for 20 or more years of service. And your slide said we have a 30-year.
you have a member getting, there is a,
Did you say the state doesn't match that? We have to come up with a difference?
You have one,
I think we have to.
you have one member.
Yeah, we have one member who did 30 years.
that's what I was told.
So the
So it
pension-
says that there is on the extended service, amount per year of service, 5% of regular for 10 additional years.
Okay, so 5% of 440 is.
Yeah, that's listed on the $22 a month, 5% of regular for 10 additional years.
And that, I don't know where that is. That's in the actuary?
Yeah, maybe it would be more appropriate if you and I had a conversation offline, or, I could go somewhere else.
Yeah, that'd be fine. No, that's no problem. And if I can read, is that in the actuarial study or?
Yes, it is.
Okay, all
It's
right.
on table 2.
Okay, no, that's all I need. I just need to find that information.
Yes.
Pam, would you be willing to make your presentation available to the board members or
Absolutely.
the public, or
I would like
Absolutely.
it posted to the website
could we post
as
it?
well.
As long as you're good with that.
I'm fine.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I couldn't see it very well from this end.
All right, any other questions for Ms. Feely? Well, Ms. Feely, you can help us interpret the next item of business, that's the second quarter 2023 allocation report. Again, this being your bailiwick, this will help us out because we have a general understanding and from everything that you indicated, we are in a good position. And as we move forward, there will be the opportunity to look at investment or increasing our benefit to our wonderful volunteers. But looking at our allocation report, do you see anything that we need to be concerned with? I'm going to assume no after your presentation, but could you just walk us across that top line as of 6/30/2023 and just help us digest what that exactly means? The year.
So you're in the long-term pool that we already talked about. So for the quarter that ended June 30th, the plan earned 2.73%. Year-to-date through June, it's 6.78%. For the 1-year mark at June 30th, it's 8.92%. For 3 years, it's 9.47%. And for 5 years, it's 7.31%.
That investment expense kind of.
Net of
counters,
investment
yeah.
expense. So, for example, the FBPA invests in some limited partnerships, let's say, or a hedge fund. And they've actually been able to get some pretty good deals. Normally, it's 2%, and then it's 2% and 20. Well, at FBPA, because it's kind of it's in between sizes, it's not super gigantic and it's not super small. they've been able to negotiate some deals where they get a 1.5% fee, and so that's versus the 2% fee. And so that's part of what goes in there. The commissions on stocks that are sold, if they sell any stocks, those would be investment expenses. Those are the things that are there.
Okay. When would we be concerned? It sounds like we're doing everything fiduciary, meeting our
If you had an extremely
responsibilities.
long time of negative numbers in those quarterly annual reports, but you're,
If we don't contribute and the market tanks,
Yes.
right.
we
But
get
you're
ourselves
right.
pinched.
And I'm gonna tell you, if that happens, FPPA is gonna be working.
Yeah.
They've tried to structure the investments in such a way to counter some of the downside. Sometimes I would sit there and I'm like, oh, my poor head. So,
All right, any other questions for Ms. Feely regarding the second quarter 2023 allocation report?
no. And my contact information is available.
And Mr. Bartlett and you can meet as we break and go into our next session. Any other business to be brought before the,
Two things. I have a question on the actual association account. Other expenses. What are those? I understand everything
Show
else.
where you are.
Allocated income and expense, I'm on the second to last page.
Okay,
Beginning balance 2.8, ending balance 2.9. And then you have the allocated income and expense. I understand everything all the way down to other expenses. What are those?
I don't know.
I would like to,
I will look into that and I'll find that out.
if we could have a,
I will get it.
is that enough PPA?
yeah, that's what I would just like clarification on what
Well, I reject it, no. But,
those other expenses are, whether it's
yeah.
internal here
Oh,
or
I see what you're
with the
saying.
FPPA.
Okay, yeah, because this looks like it's. but I'll
This
let
looks
Ms.
like
Feely-
our stuff,
That was mine.
but this is, yeah.
I think we addressed that in a previous meeting, because I know Sharon asked the same question. I did send out an email from FPPA, so I can forward that to you if you would like.
That would be awesome.
Okay.
And if from your recollection, that is FPPA expense?
It's
Okay,
FPPA
all right.
expense.
Yeah, it does appear it could be
Yeah.
board.
Yeah, if you could,
Yeah.
please, just so, and perhaps, so do you create this report, Barbara?
It's from FPPA.
Do we have the ability to modify the report once received?
Why would we want to modify a report?
Well, just so that
To clarify that.
in 6 months, when I forget this conversation again, that under other expenses, it can be bracketed, parenthesized, FPPA,
Why don't you add another sheet of paper that explains that that's what it
Yeah, there
is?
you go.
or that, just so if we have a new pension member who's here and is like, what are these other expenses? And they don't feel comfortable asking, or very likely my menopausal Swiss cheese brain forgets and says, Barb, what the heck are we doing with this? Over information is my preference.
All
And
right,
then,
point taken. Any other business to be brought before the trustees?
yes. I would like to make a motion that we engage in an actuarial report addressing a 5, 10, and 15% increase to the pension based off of the current numbers we are seeing at the 145%.
And repeat those breakdowns?
5, 10, and 15%.
So you're
Might
talking
I,
about increases of 5, 10, or 15%?
Correct.
To the benefit?
To the
That's
benefit,
correct. Okay.
yes.
Just wanted to clarify that.
And off-cycle.
For the purpose of,
Identifying if it is financially responsible and feasible to provide an increase of benefit to our pension holders.
All right, let's hold off on just a second. As you as you don't hold off, you keep writing.
Keep scribbling, Melissa, keep scribbling.
I want to respect,
Keep going, you got it, I can
Okay.
multitask.
She can also email me like,
all right. So we have a motion by Director Devaney, and I will have our secretary read it, if you don't mind.
Good lord.
That's,
Motion to engage an actuarial report to look at 5, 10, and 15% increase in the current pension. General?
should we clarify that?
Benefits, thank you,
Benefit.
thank you. It's
Benefit.
close.
an off-cycle actuarial report
And,
at the
off-cycle.
estimated cost of $2,000, is that what,
That's,
give or take?
Give or
Not to exceed 3,000?
Yeah, I'd say that. That's just,
At a cost not to exceed 3,000 to determine if an increase of 5, 10, or 15% is
Feasible.
feasible
To the pension benefit
to the pension benefit.
is feasible.
Yeah.
all right, so I am going to rely on our secretary to put that together and to recite it back to the board before we get a second. I know, I'm sorry, but
That's
I
okay.
think it's important.
Except I just have to figure out where my arrows are going. Just watching the video always helps. All right. To engage in an actual report in an off-cycle cost of $2,000 not to exceed $3,000 to determine if a 5, 10, or 15% increase is feasible to the pension benefit. Close?
Is that acceptable?
Am I close?
That is close, that
Or-
is,
Is there a second on? Second by Director
Absolutely
Woods.
second.
And we have a second, maker of the motion. You don't need to really declare anything to speak on behalf of the motion, but you're more welcome if you want to clarify. I think we all know the intent.
yeah, I think based off of the numbers that we are seeing and Pam's explanation and some indications from other pension members that it is our duty and responsibility to see if this is even something that is attainable. And for $2,000, $3,000, I think that it is upon us to do so.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. Would you like to speak any further, Director?
I agree with the motion.
Wholeheartedly behind this.
All right. Since there's no other discussion, we'll just call
I
it a
actually
question.
have a discussion.
Unless,
Question. Pam, is this, the next report, is that gonna come out January 1st?
I'm not exactly sure.
because
What date
I
we're gonna
thought it was that
Oh, this is
January
23, I'm sorry, so it's a whole
our
new-
next.
Your next one's January 25,
I got you.
So we'll have to do one in January 2024, give, or around.
whatever date they tell you.
Because normally when it came out, we spoke in August and we hadn't seen it. So is that
They,
normal?
well, okay, you have to understand, FPPA has 270-some plans that they manage. So they do, they cycle the actuarials. They do alt hires in even years and volunteers in odd years.
I got you.
And it just takes that long to do them, because they have to go through and make sure, because they don't want a mistake. I caught a mistake one year. They had egg on their face. They don't want that. So to double check it, because as you can see, there's lots of numbers flying around.
Okay, on the motion. Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, do you want to reread it? If you would. Just for parliamentarily correction.
All right, to engage in an actuarial report in an off-cycle year of a cost of $2,000 not to exceed $3,000 to determine if a percentage increase of 5 to 10, 15% is feasible to the pension benefit.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Abstentions? All right, that motion carries. Any other new business? Hearing none, I will accept the motion to adjourn the Elk Creek Fire District Pension Board of Trustees regular meeting.
So moved.
All right, second.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you all very much. Gentlemen, thank you for your effort. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Pam.
Yes.
6,
Oh,
we're gonna
perfect.
call to
It's
order
elected.
Dale Creek Fire Protection District.
All right, yeah, that would be,
Chief, are we still recording? Yeah, we are, okay, perfect. All right. Call to order at 7:06, so we have all of our board members here, so there's no need to have a roll call. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
Under old business, an update on the hired secretary.
Update
I'm
on.
hiring someone to do the minutes.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
update on,
can do.
That would be appreciated.
Administrative alternatives.
I thought we already hired that person.
I think she's just looking for
Yes.
an update,
Update.
Yes.
Oh, and
where we
Yes.
stand.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Okay, on new business, I have an email I wanted to address, received from a citizen, and a letter from a past president. Those will be added as 2 and 3. Any other additions?
So the email and then the.
Do you want,
Yeah, so we have an email from Miss Debbie Ford, and we have a letter from Greg Brandt.
do you want to put those under public comment rather than,
Now, I'll enter them in new business and just that we've all received them and that we are going to evaluate them.
okay?
Just impact discussion.
Oh, and where would you like that, Chief? You want that in new business as well?
Is that new business or old?
It would be old business.
Because we've discussed it several times, so I think old business is
Old
appropriate.
business.
Is that,
Yeah,
How do you want that phrase, Director Novy? So we can enter it into the...
Update on
yeah, update on
impacts.
mitigation of impacts of development.
Okay, impact development update. Development impact update, how about that? Will that work? All right. All right. Hearing none, we'll accept that as the agenda. We're good to go, Ms. Secretary? All right, perfect. That takes us into the approval of the September 2023 regular meeting minutes. Have you all had a chance to look at those?
I'll make a motion to accept and approve the September 2023 regular meeting minutes.
I have a correction on page, under item number 10. I would like to strike the last sentence where it says public comment, new topics of discussion.
I'm not sure that we can, since we did have a citizen make those.
So, Director Newby had brought this to my attention and I didn't have a chance to make the revision. Actually, it's written, I think it's written correctly. The only thing that should be changed based on verbatim what was in the OWL recording is the name of the organization, and maybe I'm misreading it, but it looks correct.
Well, the name of the organization referred to here, and I think this was a public comment via
It was a public comment via Zoom that was on the OWL recording.
via Zoom, right?
Mhm.
And you went back and reviewed,
Mhm.
and this person said, the organization has styled itself as Save Elk Creek Fire,
Those are the exact words.
.fire.org. I don't think so. I don't recall that.
I said it.
I don't think you said it.
I did.
Well,
Well,
it's what's in
I would
the
like, this is an epithet that has no place in our record.
How is that an epithet?
public.
Please, real quick, Director Newby, if we place in the minutes that you held an objection to that portion, would that be sufficient?
No, because
Because we can't
because the
strike.
name of the organization that the comment refers to is not written down properly. It
And
needs to
again,
be-
I think it's
it
appropriate.
needs- No, it needs to be corrected to the proper
That's what I just said.
legal name.
As a point of information, or clarification, depends on how you want to look at it. You look at the Zoom recording, listen to the Zoom recording,
multiple times.
and you will put your name on that this is the way that it was recorded.
The exact name of the organization I would verify,
Okay.
only because I have listened to it, but I did not verify that specific piece of the information. The part that says the organization has styled itself generally as that is what I wrote, but I would double check it. Again.
You know what, and if you would be comfortable with this?
There's no organization. The organization referred to is either Save Elk Creek Fire, Issue Committee, or Save Elk Creek Fire LLC.
So I
So
understand, Director Newby, where you're coming from. I'm writing down the minutes of what was said.
But that's not what was said. How could that be what was said?
All right, so this is what we're going to do. We are going to table the motion to approve the minutes. We will bring them up next month after our secretary has double, triple, quadruple check what the Zoom meeting says. And then if necessary, we will bring it and we'll play it so that our board will accept it. But there's no need to banter this back and forth. I think that this will be easily solved at our next meeting, so we are going to table approval of the September 2023 regular meeting minutes. All right, that takes us to our next issue, financial matters. And I'm going to preface this, our treasurer is in need of leaving here soon, so she's going to finish the meeting after her presentation on Zoom.
On Zoom? I'm
And,
already on Zoom?
She's already on Zoom, we heard that. And then, but I appreciate you staying, and without further ado, please.
I don't have any choice. This is my presentation.
I gave Pam's. So,
Okay, next slide's fine. This is October 12th. These are financials that report that was generated on October 1st through September 30th. So just keep that in mind. Because I just approved checks that are August.
Can you say that again?
Okay. I get a report the day after the end of the month. So in this case, I get a report on October 1st.
Okay,
Okay. For September information.
yep,
From September 30th to October 12th, which is today,
yep.
there are additional entries made, and those entries apply back to September. So
so this is a snapshot in time, is what
this
you're
is a
saying.
snapshot in time.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah. So I've just had people take exception to adding up the individual months from the board packets and not coming to the same year-to-date number that I present.
That's fair.
Fair? All right, so revenue, overview of revenue. Basically, the forecast for revenue, $5,387,681. We are at $4,615,311 versus a forecast of $4,578,707. So we're pretty much right on forecast year-to-date for revenue. Do I hear like a woo?
woo!
Nice work.
Next slide.
For the third time.
This is a nice slide.
I think that means that you did
Can I pass them around?
So what you're seeing here
So if this
So
is
just
it,
talk us
so
through
what
it.
you would see here is overview of year-to-date expenses. The forecast for the September year-to-date, 2023 total expense number is $4,040,818, adjusted for billing amounts to Inter Canyon versus year-to-date budget for the same period of $3,555,131. So we have some departments that are a little over budget, some departments are under budget. Some of the things that happen have to do with,
Recording in progress.
This is the internet.
okay.
Makes sense. Internet crash.
So in this, we had year-to-date expenses, some departments under budget, some over budget. It includes capital expenditures for remodel at Station 4 of about $12,000. Next slide. Ready? Sorry.
She's teasing you, Ben.
I'm teasing. Year-to-date, I knew it. Ben's driving again. Nice. I like that slide. It's okay. We can just go through this, Ben. Don't worry about it. So if we're looking at year-to-date net income, the forecast for year-to-date net income is $7,271. Right now, net income is at 1,000, where are we? 1,080,230. I can't remember how to read my slides. So net income is tracking pretty much the same as it did in 2022. Next slide is property tax revenue. That's our biggest revenue number. It's 67% of our overall revenue. Year-to-date property tax revenue for 2023 is forecasted to be $3,625,336. At this point, we are at $3,546,063 versus a forecast of $3,582,908. So property tax revenue is tracking exactly as it should. Okay, we
Any
need
of
to
these
do
you want to hit again? We'll get some things coming up.
expenses,
Yeah.
because I can't see. I'm gonna have to move over, because I can't.
No?
There we go.
Nope.
No, he's coming.
He's messing with me.
Over here.
Thanks, Mary. Okay, so this was overview of year-to-date expenses. I have to look back at my notes because I don't have them memorized. Expenses are forecasted to be this year. Total expenses for September 2023, year-to-date, $4,040,818. The budget for the same period is $3,555,131. So we're 75% through the year. There are a lot of departments that are under budget, some that are over budget. We'll discuss some of the key expense numbers in some later slides. Net income, next slide. We already looked at that one, didn't we? There we go, net income. Just keep clicking, there we go. Okay, so net income is,
Just testing.
year-to-date net income for August of '22, you can see the number was $1,643,916. End of the year net income in 2022 was $1,417,781. The annual budget this year for net income is $7,271. We're right now at $1,060,181. So net income is tracking a little below 2022, however, it's tracking appropriately. Next slide. Okay, just click, there you go, stop. Okay. So property tax revenue is our biggest revenue number. It is 67%, a little more than 67% of our overall revenue. Property tax revenue for 2023 is forecasted to be $3,625,336. That's the number you see on the right. Currently, property tax revenue is at $3,546,063 versus a forecast of $3,582,908. So we're very much right on forecast with property tax revenue. Next slide. Just one more. There you go, stop. Okay, so I put this slide up here because I want people to understand how difficult it can be to look at property tax on a monthly basis. You can see the spike early in the year when most people pay their property taxes, but then people do divide it in half and pay it later. So basically, property tax revenue on a monthly basis is tracking very much like 2022, and I think that is evidenced when you look at the year-to-date property tax number being what it is. So it's tracking, excuse me, exactly as we expected it to track. Next slide. So we're gonna get into labor, one more quick thing. We're gonna get into labor. Labor, like property tax, is our biggest expense. When you think about it, it makes sense that it's our biggest expense. So that property tax revenue is greater than 53% of our total expense billing amount. So this slide represents year-to-date labor, net of amounts that are billed to Inter Canyon for services that we provide to Inter Canyon. So year-to-date labor for September is $2,320,108. Budget for September was $2,196,914. This includes overtime pay in accordance with Fair Labor Standards Act. So there's a little bit of overtime in there that I guess I wasn't expecting when I did the forecast. Next slide. This is labor without SURF. SURF is the expense for sending our firefighters out of district to help other districts. We're going to actually look at SURF again on a later slide, but you can see again that that's some extra overtime in there. Next slide. This is SURF. SURF right now is under budget, so the good news is that there are less fires this year than there were last year. We'll go into that in a later slide. But you can see that our SURF expense is fairly far below budget. Next slide. Okay, this is the slide you need forklift spend. Please. If I were driving, I would do this. Just keep going. One more, two more. There you go. Okay, so this is the SURF reimbursement status, which I think is a very important slide. So at this point, we have submitted $916,941 to the state for reimbursement. At this point, we have been reimbursed, it's the bottom number, $156,230. So we are still due from the state $760,712. Total SURF expenses, which is labor, travel, miscellaneous, is at $414,684. So one of the interesting things I like to mention is 2 months ago we were at 25 days to get reimbursed. Last month we were at 26 days to get reimbursement. We're now at 32 days before we get reimbursement. So the state seems to get lagging a little bit, and it could be because the volume has increased. But right now, there really are not as many fires as I would have thought. Last year, we were at over $1 million of requests at this point last year. So right now, I have 16 total fires that were served. 1 in Alaska, 10 in Colorado, 1 in Montana, 1 in New Mexico, 1 in Oregon, and 2 in Washington. So the bulk this year has been Colorado. Last year, the bulk of SURF costs were Texas. They had over 50% of the SURF visits last month. Next slide. Expenses for the month of September as recorded on by September 30th, 2023 were $421,793. Next. I need a motion to approve the Sage ledger recorded expenses as of September 30th, 2023 for $421,793.
So moved.
Okay.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none?
Thank you, Sharon.
Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye. Run, Sharon, run.
Thank you all for letting me leave early. I am hungry, so
Enjoy your evening.
thank you.
Okay, that moves us to Chief Ware's report.
Can I ask a question really quick? Jake, who creates this report?
That I believe comes out of Sage.
Is this,
Barbara creates it, she pulls it out of that based on.
okay, going forward, can we, I would like to see, pretty please, on this income statement, the variance report, the variance number. So we have the current month actual, year-to-date budget, but if you could please help my brain and just add a column that shows the variance from year-to-date to actual.
You're talking about budget versus actuals, is that what you're asking for?
I'm talking about on the income statement as part of the financial report. We have the actual month expenses, year-to-date expenses, and year-to-date budget. I'm asking if you can create a variance column so I can see how much, it's just, can you do the math for my brain?
Do you want it
Oh,
percentage or do you want it value?
I want a value, please. I want dollars. And if you want to throw in a percentage, that'd be awesome too. But I want to see where we are compared to where we think we are going to be. And if we're sitting at 95% and we have 3 months to go, if we're sitting at 65% and we have 3 months to go. Does that make sense? Yep. Okay, thank you.
But we can, you and I can talk about that, I don't see it, but you and I can talk about that, because I actually have that in a spreadsheet. So,
Yeah. I would just like to see it on the report.
well,
And
that's,
didn't we used to get a check statement? A check ledger of who the checks were written out to?
I don't remember. Do you remember?
I don't remember that, not since I've been on the
I
board.
don't think we ever got a check register. But if you want to come in and sign the checks occasionally, you'll
Nope.
see them.
And we can talk about this later, but I would like to see that going forward.
Okay.
I think it helps tremendously with transparency. That we talk about these expenses and we talk about the big picture numbers, but knowing where the money is going from a transparency perspective, I think is very important.
So you're wanting a check register, or you're wanting what you just talked about, which is
The variance.
the variance from budget?
I want both. I want all the things. I want a check report of who the checks are made out to and for how much. And Barb, I can send you an example of what we do in what I do in other districts.
I think that what we currently do is when we do create the checks, we have a check report.
Okay, then.
Yes, we can just throw that in there.
I would like that added to this. Does it give a statement of what it was for?
It's on the invoice.
That I'm not sure.
It says
'Cause
the
I don't wanna-
vendor, but it doesn't necessarily have a description of what it was.
I would like to see what it's for.
Okay.
Because you only need 2 signatures on the checks. And once you get those 2 signatures, once I see that those checks have been signed, I don't know what's going out. And neither do 3 other members of the board.
Yeah, the problem with that is that there aren't descriptions of what it was for.
Not on the check register. Because the check might be for 10 invoices,
I understand
right?
that.
And it might be 10 different things that it was for, like if you're paying Amazon Business.
Oh, I
There might
understand.
be a whole bunch of different things.
Then can we keep the invoices handy for board meeting night so they can be reviewed if necessary?
You want all the invoices for the whole month?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can
I
do it.
do.
We can do it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? Ben, thank you for your patience with that thing. All right, we will move into the chief's report. Chief Ware.
Give me 1 second.
Yes, sir.
He's making my wish list.
Of course.
That's
All right.
everything.
All right, so obviously, if anybody's been outside, fire season is slowly winding down across the west. All the Elk Creek resources are home from assignments, and while it's a slow season, we still had resources staying busy in Colorado and traveled all across the west again. Recently, we were able to assist the United States Forest Service in several prescribed fires this fall with our module, and as well as work with West Metro on prescribed fire with an engine down the hill. These events are valuable. They provide great training opportunities for our members, as well as strengthen our working relationships with our partners. we were able to send an engine down to the Fallen Firefighter Memorial in Colorado Springs. We sent engine 435 down to the event, and most of this month has been tied up with budgets, which we'll get to. It has been a pretty challenging event to try and come up with that, and we'll talk more in detail. Operations, we had 315 hours of volunteer staffing at Station 1. We averaged 3.8 members per call. Only 16% of the calls overlapped, and our average response time was 8:34. We did have 3 fires. Of note, we are still getting Intercanyon's had another lightning fire this morning, or this afternoon, left over from lightning strike last night. Intercanyon also had another fire that's not on this. They had it was a larger travel trailer, it's probably 30 feet, it exploded and started creeping out in the vegetation. It wasn't driven by wind, or basically the sun was down, so it went out pretty quickly. Wildland fire season's not completely done. We still have a bumper crop of grass out, so we haven't put away all of our wildland stuff yet. Hopefully we're gonna get some snow to kind of flatten that all down, and that should slow things down. EMS calls, nothing really to note, for a total of 110 runs. We had 5 mutual aid assists, and transports were up a little bit for 39 transports. 596 hours of training for the month, and the 2023 Fire Academy is finishing up Firefighter 1, which is pretty exciting. Fire prevention, 84 inspections, 10 letters and county referrals, 5 plan reviews, and Fire Marshal Rush was able to attend the Fire Code Action Committee in Chicago for fire and WUI code revisions. We've never had a seat at that table before, so it's pretty exciting to have somebody involved in that. And Fire Marshal Rush is also working on Fire Prevention Month and coordinating some visits for schools and setting up trunk or treat for some of the community outreach. Facilities, if anybody's driven by Station 3, the siding was done as of yesterday, and they should be finishing painting the doors. We're trying to wrap up some of the capital projects. And the last big capital project that we'll be doing is we're going to be ordering vehicle lifts for fleet maintenance. There's no board action on it. It was approved in last year's budget. We've been going back and forth. Fleet manager Hojanowski has been researching. Unfortunately, up until the last few years, we really haven't been able to have something like that, because in years past, they always took 240. They were very labor intensive. They weren't very mobile. Technology's changed, so he's been looking at different vendors, and he's settled on one. We're going to get 4 18,000-pound post jacks, so we'll have the ability to lift fire engines off the ground, and it'll help with service. It'll make everything more efficient. Which is pretty exciting. That's a capital expenditure. It's going to be right around $75,000.
And where's those?
They're going to go in the maintenance bay. It's become a real challenge. He had to replace a radiator and cab over fire engines. With the design of the cab and the way it goes over, everything has to come out the bottom. So you basically have to lift up one of the 40,000-pound fire engines about 3.5 feet off the ground. And without lifts, that becomes a exciting proposition at best. I mean, obviously it can be done safely, but it's a challenge to do with what we have. He's been looking at it. We've been kind of going back and forth over the last year, so that's going to be the last big capital project we're going to do this year.
All right.
That's all I got.
Jake, how many
Yes.
did we start the academy with?
14?
Okay.
17. Oh, there he is. 17.
Okay. Did you just run him off, Jesse?
I don't think so.
I don't even think he did it. It was the natural attrition of things.
Yeah. Is that a standard?
I mean, honestly, we're doing better. Most of the time, it was at least 50%. Historically, that's what it's always been.
50% of those.
Right around there. Well, a lot of people, they get involved. I mean, it's one of those things, being a volunteer firefighter is exciting until you have to be a volunteer firefighter. You know, until you start realizing how much time is involved, how much effort's involved. You know, a lot of people just want to get the shirt and go tinker. Well, that's great. You don't get the shirt. You have all these things, and you have to pass the state test, and there's all these components.
Yeah.
And we try and be upfront about it in the beginning. And people get involved and they realize it's challenging. It takes a lot of hours, a lot of effort. And so most of the time, it's not necessarily Captain Weinfeld's fault for running them off per se. It's just the commitment. There were probably a couple he ran off, but most of the time, it's just the commitment. It's the commitment and the effort involved in it. And I mean, let's be frank, we live in a place where the average home price is what, $750 or something? People just don't have a lot of free time. You have to hustle to live up here.
Yeah.
And between families and everything else, it's a time suck that a lot of people just can't commit to.
Do you do exit interviews when you lose them? Like, do you have?
Sometimes it depends. It depends how they leave. I mean,
Okay.
there are honestly people that leave by bringing
showing
their
up.
gear in a bag and dropping it off at night and never showing up again.
Okay,
The people that leave that are open, yeah, we talk to them. We'll talk to them via email if we can talk face to face. And those people, those are the ones who are very honest, you know. We have young kids, I've had a job change or something like that, and they're very honest about why they're leaving. So yeah, to a certain extent we do, but others just kind of dip out in the middle.
I think it just goes to reinforce the statement that we've all seen in the industry, that volunteerism is declining
I was gonna say,
at a
Pam, you probably have
dramatic
more
rate.
experience with volunteers than anybody in here times 10, and you said you see it all across the state. It's just what it is.
This is what it is.
Awesome, thanks Jake for that.
Thank you, Chief. Any other questions for Chief Ware? Okay, that brings us to our next item, and that is our public comment. We have 6 people that have signed up. The first is Miss Debbie Ford. Ms. Ford, would you mind stepping up here so that we can get you on the owl, and we can record your statement, and everybody can hear you. You can sit or you can stand. A lot of people stand. Whatever's most comfortable for you, Ms. Ford.
Just as a point of order for everybody speaking tonight, you have 3 minutes. At the 1 minute mark, I will hold my finger up.
Oh, good.
So you can see, and then you'll hear the timer go off. Please don't make me ask you to.
Okay.
It's embarrassing for both of us.
Fire away, Ms. Ford.
Okay. My name is Debbie Ford. My address is 30772 Shadow Mountain Drive in Conifer. And I'm here to discuss the guidelines you plan on adopting for new development within your service area. To start, we have interacted with Elk Creek Fire Department District, and it has always been very positive. Thank you. As you decide what your guidelines are for new development, I appreciate you accepting community input. Fire districts have a statutory responsibility to provide fire protection services, rescue services, EMS, ambulance services, and other services related to protecting the lives in our property. I know you will carefully evaluate the process and guidelines you will adopt for all new developments. I believe that you are setting the guidelines for new development. I believe that you setting the guidelines for new developments are preventative measures that help save lives. I will use the proposed Shadow Mountain Bike Park as my example. This proposed site, as you know, will be a chairlift operated downhill mountain bike park, 16 miles of trails with buildings and challenging terrain. We all know of the many serious accidents that happen with downhill mountain biking. In addition, there is a 300 space parking lot proposed, and we would have 5,000 additional people weekly on Shadow Mountain. Estimates say 84% of fires are human caused. The goal is to be able to find an equitable method for you to determine your position on new building developments. Determine if current residents can still be accommodated at the same level and within the same response time the addition of new developments bring. This is a statutory responsibility. Do you have the resources? Determine, does the proposed development endanger the lives of the residents and the visitors if an evacuation is necessary? Fire evacuation of residents and commercial entities should be evaluated to determine the safety for all concerned. We can't just approve everything because it is proposed. 5,000 new people a week in a 300 space parking lot is viewed by most as a potential disaster in case of fire. A commercial enterprise shouldn't be built in a residential area with possibly one way or no way out. Also, do not increase fees to residential homeowners for new developments, especially when developments are commercial for-profit ventures. Provide a mechanism to charge for-profit developers with the increased fee associated with EMS and fire protection fees. We are all aware of the Marshall Fire, and in recent months, the Lahaina Fire, besides the many other fires we read about, like the Paradise Fire.
Thank you, Ms. Ford.
Ms. Ford, your time's up, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's
All
okay.
right, now-
Thank you very much, I sure
I
do.
know.
Do you have a letter that you would like us to,
And is that this, and forgive me, just, I need some
I'm the
clarification,
same
because I
Debbie Ford.
have an email from you as
Yes.
well that we want to address.
Okay.
Is that sufficient for us? You sent it to the board.
Yeah, it's
would you like to-
basically the same information.
Okay, and that's what I, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, I
All right.
appreciate it.
And, Ms. Murphy, we have a Barbara Moss Murphy.
Hi, I'm Barbara Moss Murphy, and I live at 28942 Shadow Mountain Drive. I've lived on Shadow Mountain Drive for over 40 years, and I'm grateful and thankful for the EMS my family has received over the years. I do not want our EMS to be changed by a large-scale commercial development such as the proposed bike park on Shadow Mountain Drive. This is why I'm speaking tonight. Over 3,000 community members have signed our petition to stop the development of this bike park due to safety concerns and the potential impact this park will have on our current EMS services. Significant downhill bike injuries are common. A study completed at Whistler Mountain Park in just a 5-month period reported 2,000 injuries within 900 riders. 12% of those injuries were life and limb threatening, including broken bones, concussions, internal bleeding, organ damage, and spinal injuries. But when we're fighting the overall impact that the bike park will have on our EMS, we must go beyond the number of crashes directly at the park. We must include school bus stops and the huge increase of traffic and concerns regarding evacuation, especially in case of fire. We already, on Shadow Mountain Drive, have over 2,000 cars. Imagine what adding an additional 1,500 will do to our crash rate. Also, the stretch between the entrance of Shadow Mountain Drive and the proposed bike park is 30 miles per hour. In a recent study completed by Jefferson County, their traffic department, 98% were going over the speed limit. 13% were going over 50 miles an hour. There have been 3 fatalities between 2011 and 2020 between the entrance of Shadow Mountain Drive and just beyond the proposed bike park. We do not have the infrastructure to support a commercial bike park. With 37 minutes to the nearest hospital, and that's in good weather with no traffic. Every time an ambulance serves that bike park, our residents will be denied EMS for almost 2 hours. And I don't need to tell you that the Elk Creek Fire Department makes 30 to 40 ambulance runs a month. But we estimated, and I lowballed this, that the bike park would add 15 to 20 additional runs. It's not fair to have the Elk Creek EMS unavailable for our area residents. Possibly 50% of the time, that's 270 days a year. The impact, is that it?
yeah,
Okay.
thank you, Ms. Ford.
Okay, but I just wanted to thank you for conducting an impact study for us.
And Ms. Murphy, please don't hesitate to send that to us again. I'm pretty sure we've received that once, but if you want to send it to the board, well, it's clearly appropriate. Okay. All right, next is Brendan Wilkins.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Brendan Wilkins. I'm obviously a volunteer here at Elk Creek, but I'm also a resident of the district. I wanted to come tonight to just address a misconception that is going around the community, and that is essentially that there is a dysfunctional relationship between the career and the volunteer members of the department. So to get straight to the point, this couldn't be farther from the truth. To the contrary, the relationship between our volunteer and career members, it's not only harmonious, but to me as a volunteer, it embodies the definition of a fire family. So you see, Elk Creek to me, it's a remarkable example of how different individuals with different backgrounds and experiences come together as a cohesive, efficient, and unified team. As a combination department, we are proof that volunteer staff can not only coexist, but thrive together. The strength of Elk Creek lies not in our mutual respect, camaraderie, or the strength of Elk Creek lies in our mutual respect, camaraderie, but most importantly, the shared dedication that exists between our volunteers and our career members. That dedication comes from a common goal that we share. It's to serve our community, protect lives, and to ensure the safety of our neighbors. The members that volunteer in this community, we are your neighbors. In fact, and actually, the dedication comes from a common goal we share. Yep. So, this shared mission unites us, transcending any distinctions between our roles. In fact, our career staff go above and beyond, pouring their knowledge and experience into the training and elevation of our volunteer members. This willingness not only enhances our volunteers' members' skills, but also reinforces the sense of unity within our department. When a call comes in, whether it be routine or a serious emergency, we are one unified team. We work seamlessly together to save lives and protect our community. So I say all of that to say, I felt that it's important to dispel that misconception that our volunteer and career staff have a dysfunctional relationship with each other. Together, both career and volunteer members, we are a testament to the power of teamwork, cooperation, and unity within the fire service. We stand as a proud example of how different backgrounds and experiences can come together to serve our community and save lives. Thanks.
My name is Philip Koch. I go by Flip, have since I was in short pants. So the community here has two models of what the future of emergency response is going to be like in this area and possibly others. And one, which has been proposed by this board, and I thank you for giving us something we can vote upon, is the consolidation of this fire protection district with North Fork and Eric Canyon. The other, which is being proposed by those in opposition to this, is effectively a static, keep it as it is model. And while I appreciate that as a vote of confidence in what it is that we're doing, everybody who's inside of this bubble providing this service will tell you that we can't keep this up for a whole lot longer the way it is right now, and something has to change. So I'd like to give a cautionary historical story here. It's a true one. It goes back not quite a century to France in the late 1920s and early 1930s. There's a man by the name of André Maginot, who was the war minister of France. France, of course, had suffered through what was then called the Great War and was looking at Germany arming itself on its eastern border and said, we don't want to have the carnage we had before on our soil. Let's move it to Belgium. So let's build this giant set of bunkers along our eastern border, and that'll keep the darn Boches from invading. And it was a very expensive thing. It took a decade to complete. A third, nearly, of the French army was involved in staffing it. It was a remarkable piece of engineering, and the Wehrmacht in 1940 ran around it, encircled it in a few days, and basically it was bloody useless. 6 weeks France fell. It took 4 years during the First War, and nothing happened. So my point is, you can prepare, as they were doing, for the previous war, how things were, and be very surprised when something new comes your way. In my opinion, the consolidation effort is actually preparing for today and tomorrow. Doing what we've always been doing is preparing for yesterday, and I personally am not in favor of doing that. I hope that the voting population here will have the sense and wisdom, and I believe they do, to vote for the change that everybody inside this organization says is needed, with perhaps one exception. So that is my piece on this one. I am hoping that I get a second chance to talk in more detail, but my caution is look to the future, not to the past. Forward into the future, not backward into the past. Thank you.
Miss Missy Weinfeld.
Board Directors, my name is Melissa Weinfeld. I live at 41 Sunlight Lane in Bailey. I'm coming to you again to express my disapproval of one of the Board Directors' previous and continued unethical behavior and behavior that violates your bylaws. In carefully reviewing your bylaws, there is no place for internal recourse when a board member's behavior and actions are unbecoming, insubordinate, and in direct violation of these bylaws. Article 3, Section 1C states, meeting the needs of the district's constituents should be the primary purpose of each director. 1E states, directors should avoid double talk, hidden agendas, backbiting, and other negative forms of interaction. 1H, once the board has voted on an issue, such as a ballot question, the directors shall not take any actions